This is Maginoni, and welcome to another edition of The Good, the Bad, and the Disappointing. Now, this week was rather difficult because I had a very, very, very hard time figuring out what was the good book. Bad and disappointing, that's easy. But nothing really stood out, so let's just try to muddle through the good part. I'm just going to pick... That's not the good book. The good book is actually... Avengers 34. Now, here's the deal. Now, my bet, if I was a betting man, I would bet Outcast. It was probably the better book, but I didn't read that yet. I have to find my Outcast 2 before I read 3. But anyways, here's the deal. Hickman's wasted a lot of time with this Avengers nonsense with Captain America constantly jumping forward in time. And we finally get the payout. And actually, I was kind of relieved that the payout actually happens. He meets Iron Lad, and, Iron Lad teams up with Kang and Immortus, and they're like, well, Cap, we gotta do some serious things because time manipulation stream, it's a little awkward right now, and we need to get it fixed. And, Captain America's like, by gosh darn it, I will never team up with you. You guys are horrible people. And Iron Lad is like, well, Cap, you may not like Immortus and Kang, but do it for me because I'm a great guy. And Cap is like, okay, you are a good guy. I'll team up with you. And then they're like, Cap, you must relinquish the part that makes you the greatest character of all time. You cannot always inspire the hope in people, and there is always another way to save lives, even though everybody must die. And Cap's like, that is horse poo. I will never do that. And it is not anything different about me. I just the way I am. And they're like, well, dang it. That's not going the way we want it. And then eventually they battle really briefly. And we get to learn basically a little bit more about what's going on with the time. He's actually a cause of part of the problem. And what he does is he's given technically two choices, but if you remember going back a few issues, he got a whisper about how to handle this, and he chose option number 3. And option number 3 was to do not what they expected, and he managed to go back into time, get everybody straightened out, and they're actually setting the plan to go after the Illuminati. Now, here's the deal. Long-time comic readers will agree with me. Newbies, you're just going to have to listen and believe that we know what we're talking about here. On paper, that's the greatest thing. Imagine the Avengers taking down Iron Man, Beast, Black Bolt, Submariner, Black Panther, the cream of the crop. Imagine that. That's not going to happen. Well, you will have some issues where they take down some of the characters. Some of the characters will be on the run, but let's be honest with you. Iron Man has his own book, Superior Iron Man. He's moving to San Fran, and he's still a part of the Avengers. Then you have, Namor's doing the Cabal part right now. Beast is going to be integral part to the X-Men nonsense. So nobody's going down. Reed is still the family man who has to prove himself to the courts. So there's no way, shape, or form they're going to suddenly throw the curveball. Oh, well, Reed was actually part of the secret group that was destroying worlds and killing billions of lives. Not going to happen, so don't get too excited. But anyways, I'm just glad this part's over. We can move on to the next chapter. It's actually really well written. So that's the reason why I'm giving it the good. But I'll be honest with you. In most of the other books that came out, if somebody else threw out as a good, I'd give it to you without really fighting too much for it. Alright, let's go with the bad. That is this monstrosity. Now, here's the deal. It's not that it's like a horrible book, but the problem is, it's like I've just suddenly stopped really caring about this book. It's kind of like you've stayed too long in the past. You've overstayed your welcome. It's like you have Peter Parker trying to look like he's, really part of this like way in the past, and with the way he looks, the clothing, but yet he still has some of the comforts of home that technically he shouldn't be having because it's a little bit more modernized. So it's like they can't quite decide how they want to do it. You have a villain that couldn't care less about, this guy right here. It's just like, dude, you're not good enough for Stan Lee to come up with. So let's just move on. I've wasted 4 issues of my life, 4 months of my life, for a villain I couldn't care less about, who's a whiny bitch who basically is pissed off at Spider-Man because he didn't give him the attention that he felt that he needed. And eventually he's going to turn into some great supervillain in the future, despite nobody's going to remember him from the past. Regardless, I'm dropping this book. And the disappointing. All new Ultimates. Now, the Ultimates had a very unique look, very interesting art style. I was warming up to it. Then I open it up and I see this monstrosity. And I'm just like going, okay, who let their child... Was this bring your child to work today so this way they can draw a comic book? Because if so, you need a new child. This is shitty artwork, shitty colors, and it's an overall lack of backgrounds, lack of effort, lack of just something that resembles a comic book that's worth $3.99. This is the type of book that I would expect that you find some independent company that nobody gives 2 craps about, and that's the artwork that you get from them. This is not what I would expect from Marvel or DC, and this is just I don't know. It's kind of like Marvel ran out of money because they pay Bendis and Hickman and all those guys remender way too much money. So to a book like this that sells crap, they just find anybody who is willing to submit some pages, and they don't really vet it. Horrible. If the original pencilers don't come back soon, dropping this one too. Anyways, that is my good, the bad, and disappointing. And if you notice, I'm not even telling you what this book is about because I honestly started to read this thing. Okay, they're in a sewer, and I'm like, who cares? The sewer is monstrous in size. It's improbable to be this big inside a sewer, with these great battles. They're fighting shitty D-level monsters or villains, and you can't. It's just an insult to my intelligence. It's an insult to anybody's intelligence, any longtime reader's intelligence. I would not recommend this book at all. Not a good jumping on part. Skip it. Anyways, that is my good, the bad, and disappointing. If you have any comments or questions, let me know. Let me know what your good and your bad and your disappointing is. And I'll have more reviews. Like and share. Do the the Facebook right down there, and the Crunchyroll anime reviews are right there also. And we'll have more stuff later. So until next time.